In Frege, proper name has been used in various senses. And the sense of a name, the concept of sense has been introduced. Concept of sense, and he has given, I reconstructed 4 arguments for sense. And then he has introduced sense in 6 senses. Okay? 6 senses of sense. And proper name is used to include what we call ordinary proper names, like Aristotle, as well as John and Tom, as well as definite descriptions, the author of Gitanjali, the author of Ivano, the author of Waverley, as well as the present King of France, which is false. False means there is no such king, as well as indexicals, this and that, and sentences or propositions. Propositions is the sense of a sentence, and sentence name, truth value, true, false. And important thing is that Frege has introduced sense, and I am using the sense to interpret the Naiyāyika view. So you require sense. Sense determines the referent. This meaning of the word sense I have taken from Frege, so that Western readers can understand the Naiyāyika view. Because the important thing is that Western readers think that we cannot understand Indian philosophy. And always they ask the question whether Indians got any philosophy distinct from religion. So I took this debate from them, and I tried to solve Western problems by introducing the tools of Indian philosophy. This is the aim. Now, in Russell, we found a sharp distinction between proper names and ordinary names. He has also given 6 different definitions of proper name. Proper names are objects which are present when the speaker is present. And proper names name some sense data, particulars. Proper names are also subjects. So in Russell, I have introduced a lot of things in Russell. I am reading also from Russell. A proper name is a simple symbol, and it cannot be eliminated from a sentence in which it occurs. So it cannot be eliminated. A proper name can only occur as subject in a proposition. it occurs as subject. A proper name is a name for a particular, that is ontological characterization. The meaning of a proper name is its referent or the particular it denotes. So in Russell, there is no distinction between sense and the referent. He uses the meaning of a proper name as its meaning. The meaning of a proper name is its referent or the particular it denotes. We cannot know the meaning of a proper name unless we are acquainted with its referent. That means you require acquaintance with the referent. So if Scott is sitting in this room and I say, this is Scott, then I am acquainted with that person, and that person is the particular and it is the referent. The understanding of the meaning of a proper name does not involve understanding a proposition in which it occurs. But understanding a predicate expression involves a proposition. You cannot understand what is red unless you know the meaning of the sentence, this is red. But in the case of a proper name, this does not happen. So I have characterized that the first two of these may be taken as the linguistic or syntactic characterization of a proper name. 3 and 4 as the semantic characterization, and the last two as epistemic characterization of a proper name. And then I have introduced Kripke. Kripke thinks all of them are wrong. He claims that all these definitions are false, wrong. Why? He thinks that because proper names are rigid designators. So he has introduced a new term, rigid, non-rigid. Before Kripke, nobody has introduced these terms. And he thinks that all the views of proper names are wrong. And he lumped up Frege, Russell, John Searle, then Strawson, all of them, including Wittgenstein. That proper name cannot be transformed into a set of definite descriptions. Aristotle cannot be equated with the teacher of Alexander the Great. And he claimed that proper names are rigid designators, but definite descriptions, most of them are non-rigid designators. Only a few of them are rigid designators, like gold. Gold is the metal with the atomic number 79. That one is rigid designator. A rigid designator means that it designates the same object in all possible worlds where it exists. So when you say Aristotle is the teacher of Alexander the Great, he thinks that Aristotle refers to Aristotle, but the teacher of Alexander the Great is a referential description. Referential description and attributive description I discussed, and I pointed out that referential description simply picks out the object. Even if, and I gave you 3 examples of referential definite description. What are those examples? One is Aristotle is the teacher of Alexander the Great. Okay. Then another example, referential definite description, who is John, the person who is holding glass and drinking champagne. It is half true. He is not drinking champagne, he is holding the glass and drinking water. Third one, it is not true of any of the person, but still you can pick up the object. You can, in a movie theater, 2 persons are going, one is male, another is female. And the person who is in charge of the seats pointed out that you can sit there towards, pointing towards the male, and towards the female, your wife can sit here. She is not his wife completely. It does not hold good. But still, you can pick up the object. So that is called referential definite description. Now, Kripke has discussed and falsified all the 6, means not all the 6 propositions, but he has pointed out 6 characterizations of the tradition, which is present in Frege, Russell, Wittgenstein, Strawson, and Searle. To every name or designating expression X, there corresponds a cluster of properties, namely the family of these properties, phi, such that A believes phi X. Phi stands for a set of definite descriptions. One of the properties or some conjointly are believed by A to pick out some individual uniquely. So, Aristotle, we have a set of descriptions of Aristotle, the teacher of Alexander the Great, the author of Nicomachean Ethics, the greatest disciple of Plato. So some of them will hold good and it will pick up the object uniquely. Then if most or weighted most of the phi's are satisfied by one unique object Y, then Y is the referent of X. If most of them are satisfied, then it would be the referent. If most of the definite descriptions are satisfied. If the vote yields no unique object, X does not refer. If all of them are false, then that term does not refer to anything. If the statement, if X exists, then X has most of the phi's is known a priori by the speaker. So how much a priori? A priori meaning is not derived from experience. There are several meanings, and I gave you some suggestions for it. I have mentioned 9 or 10 suggestions for a priori. But this is the Kantian definition, not derived from experience. The statement, if X exists, then X has most of the phi's, expresses a necessary truth. Necessary truth also, I have pointed out, some truths are necessary, like analytic truths. So I pointed out here that Kripke has falsified all of them, and thereby he established his view that proper names are rigid designators. They name the same thing in all possible worlds. And I have introduced also different, lot of things, like Aristotle is the teacher of Alexander the Great. The teacher of Alexander the Great is the teacher of Alexander the Great. Aristotle is Aristotle. Aristotle is Aristotle. That cannot be false, because it is a rigid designator. Aristotle might not have been Aristotle. That you cannot say that. So I have pointed out here how to draw the distinction between them. The proposition Aristotle might not have been Aristotle is false in every possible world. This sentence is not capable of scope distinctions according to Kripke. It can be symbolized in the following way. It is possible that Aristotle is not identical with Aristotle. How to symbolize Aristotle exists? One symbolization is Aristotle is identical with Aristotle. There are many ways to symbolize Aristotle exists. So he claimed that Aristotle, the teacher of Alexander the Great, might not have been the teacher of Alexander the Great. Aristotle might not have been the teacher of Alexander the Great. But Aristotle cannot, you cannot say Aristotle might not have been Aristotle. Okay? So he made the distinction between ordinary proper names and definite descriptions, and two types of definite descriptions. One is rigid and another is non-rigid. But proper names are always rigid definite description, rigid designators. Now, Kripke claimed that what happens what happens? He says that he is not proposing a theory, but he is claiming what most of us do and how we refer to proper names. He says, I am quoting that passage, someone, let us say a baby is born. His parents call him by a certain name. They talk about him to their friends. Others people meet him through various sorts of talk. The name is spread from link to link as if by a chain. So parents baptize him and then the link starts. A speaker who is on the far end of the chain, who has heard about, say, Richard Feynman in the marketplace or elsewhere, may be referring to Richard Feynman even though he cannot remember from whom he has first heard of Feynman or from whom he ever heard of Feynman. But Feynman refers to Feynman. Even if he cannot identify from whom he has heard of the name Feynman. Same thing, Aristotle. He knows that Feynman was a famous physicist. A certain passage of communication reaching ultimately to the man himself does reach the speaker. He then is referring to Feynman even though he cannot identify him uniquely. He cannot identify him. And he cannot mention from whom he has heard the name Feynman. But still, Feynman refers to Feynman because of the chain of the speakers, which started from the baptizing ceremony. Now, I pointed out that in the case of Kripke, there are three things. The initial baptism, which fixes the referent either by ostension or by a description. Ostension means this person is to be called Aristotle. The baby is born, that baby is to be called Aristotle. Pointing out ostension. So, Kripke has emphasized the chain of communication for successful reference. Chain of communication. Thirdly, he has emphasized intention of the speaker. I intend to refer to the person from whom I have heard the name Feynman. So three things are involved. The causal chain or the subsequent users of a name who form the community of speakers of a particular name. This point emphasizes the social aspect of the use of a name. I have mentioned social aspect. Third one, the identity of intention of speakers who serves as the cement for the chain of communication. That is my use, you know. It is like a cement. Identity of intention. So when Aristotle, people utter the name Aristotle in a marketplace, then the person who has heard the name Aristotle, he thinks that he is referring, his intention is to refer to the same person from whom he has learned the name Aristotle. Then I have criticized Kripke and retained the sense theory of Frege. Because I need sense to interpret the Naiyāyika view. So I pointed out that some of the criticisms of Kripke are not applicable to Frege. One, I have mentioned incomplete sense, partially complete sense, and semi-complete sense. This is my reconstruction because Kripke said, Frege said that we cannot have complete sense. Given a sense, we cannot point out that this belongs to this object. That requires omniscience. So I pointed out incomplete sense. An incomplete sense of a name is expressible by an indefinite description, and it is not sufficient for determining the referent uniquely. Who is Feynman? A scientist. That is indefinite, incomplete sense. It is not sufficient to pick out the object uniquely, but nonetheless it is a sense in Frege. Then partially complete sense, this type of sense would be sufficient for a particular user of a name to identify the referent in a particular world or possible world. Hence, it can be expressed by a definite description. For example, the author of Gitanjali. That one is partially complete sense. It is enough to pick out the referent in a particular world. Then semi-complete sense. This type of sense would give us a necessary and sufficient condition for the identity of the referent in all possible worlds. The epistemic counterpart of an essential and the unique property of the referent would be a sense of this type. If we can cognize an object under the mode of an essential and a unique property, then we can identify it in any possible world. The epistemic counterpart of Kripke's description of an object in terms of structural properties would be a sense of this type. You have to pick out a unique property which does not belong to anything else. And if you know that unique property, then you can identify in all possible world where he exists or she exists. The term complete sense, according to Frege, is reserved for all possible modes of presentation of an object. But a finite human being cannot grasp all possible modes of presentation of an object. All possible modes of presentation. But we cannot grasp it. So that is called complete sense. And I have reconstructed from his remark on complete sense. Frege has admitted this point in the following passage. I have quoted also a passage. A complete knowledge of the nominatum would require that we could tell immediately in the case of any given sense whether it belongs to the nominatum. This we shall never be able to do. Given any sense, you can point out whether it belongs to this object or not. That means you have to know all possible senses of an object, all possible modes of presentation of an object, which we cannot do. And I have criticized Kripke also further. Secondly, Kripke's method of fixing the referent of a name in terms of referential definite description does not constitute a counterexample to Frege's theory of sense. A referential definite description which is satisfied by an object would express a partial sense. So I am refuting the objections raised by Kripke against Frege. Frege has admitted a fluctuation in the sense of a name depending on the context and the speaker, as well as the cognitive value of this fluctuation. And Frege has admitted also different ways of fixing the referent of a name. Thirdly, I pointed out, if the referent of a name is fixed in terms of a structural property, which is an essential and a unique property of an object, then also it does not constitute a counterexample to Frege. The mode of presentation which determines the referent in all possible worlds would be an epistemic counterpart of an essential and a unique property of the referent. A definite description of this type would be a rigid designator according to Kripke. The mode of presentation of this type would be semi-complete sense of Kripke or Frege. All right, to everybody, I have compared with Kripke the view of Frege, and I have pointed out that his criticisms are not adequate, wide of the mark. Fourthly, Kripke's causal chain or historical explanation theory of proper names cannot be taken either as a substitute for Frege's theory of sense or as a falsifying condition for Frege's theory of proper names. Frege is mainly concerned with the question what happens at the episteme, at the level of understanding, when we understand a sentence in which a proper name occurs, and how a user of a name can identify the referent of a proper name. He is also concerned with the question what constitutes the knowing of a language. He said the sense of a proper name is grasped by everyone who knows the language. So, knowing of a language means knowing the sense, according to Frege. Kripke, on the other hand, is concerned with the question how a name actually linked with its referent. So his question, his answer in terms of causal or historical explanation is not concerned with the epistemic questions of Frege. So Kripke is concerned with the question how a name is linked up with its referent, and not with the question how a user can identify the referent of a proper name. So according to Kripke, since a proper name is a rigid designator, it refers to the same object in every possible world, even if a user of it cannot identify the referent in any possible world. Since Kripke and Frege are concerned with different questions, Kripke's theory cannot be claimed to be a substitute for Frege's theory of sense, which is an epistemic theory of proper names. So they are concerned with different questions. Kripke is concerned with the link and the original baptism, but Frege is concerned with the epistemic counterpart of a proper name. What is how to grasp the mode of presentation? What is the mode of presentation by means of which we can identify an object or partially identify an object, either in this world or in all possible worlds? Fifthly, Kripke, in his causal theory of names, emphasizes the importance of the identity of the intention of the users, which serves as the cement or the link in this causal chain. According to him, there is, all right, everybody? Everybody can understand all the previous things. So I am summing up here. From these criticisms of Kripke, one should not conclude that we are not in favor of emphasizing the social aspect of the use of a name. I am simply pointing out certain difficulties if this theory of Kripke is taken as a substitute for Frege's theory of names, or if it is taken as the most satisfactory explanation for what most of us do. It seems to me that a satisfactory theory of proper name would emphasize both the epistemic and the social aspect of different uses of proper names in our ordinary language. So they are concerned with different things. Okay? Frege is concerned with what happens to our mind, epistemic part of it. And Kripke is concerned with how to set up the link and intention of the speaker. But we do not know if there is a complete history of names, then we can do. But we do not have complete history of names. So that is a substantial criticism of Kripke, that we do not have complete history of names. Interpolation, what we call. Now I have introduced the Naiyāyika view.
Sir,
Bolo.
do you think you could please elaborate on the last point you had made, that we need a complete history for
Of names. If
yes,
there
yes,
is a
please.
complete history of names, then Kripke's theory might work. And we do not have complete history of names. And Kripke himself has admitted that the names like, Santa Claus, if there is a change in the intention of the speakers, then we get cases like the name Santa Claus. The name Santa Claus, according to Kripke, was originally used to refer to a certain saint. Since there was some change in the intention of the subsequent users, this name is used by children, does not refer to that saint. So Kripke himself has admitted that we require identity of the intention. But here change of intention is there in the case of Santa Claus. Similarly, there might be change of intention in other cases also. And some person can interpolate a name which does not exist, which does not refer to anything. When you were writing stories or Ramayana, Mahabharata, people interpolate some names which do not exist. So I am pointing out that these are the shortcomings of Kripke.
So the rigid designator is no longer rigid in this case.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So when we refer to the congruency of the intention, we are in fact referring to the agreements of the speakers as to the history of the name.
That's right. We do not have history of the names, complete history of the names. So these are the criticisms of Kripke.
Sir, Begda has a question. Begda, can you unmute and ask? I can read
Yes,
it out.
you can ask questions.
Yes, sir. So far as I have understood your point, that in Kripke's point of view, the Kripke's concern is how a proper name receives its sense or meaning. On the other hand, Frege is primarily intended about the epistemic aspect of proper name. That is,
That's right.
how we know the meaning of a proper name. Is it correct, sir?
That's right. Because he has made a distinction between the referent of a proper name and the sense of a proper name.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Referent cannot be confused with the sense. And he has used sense in 6 senses.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, I am glad that most of you are here, and welcome you all, especially newcomers who have joined recently. I am grateful to you all. It has generated some interest in others. Now, the Nyaya view I have mentioned First of all, the Nyaya, with reference to the Nyaya view, the relation is between an expression and the referent is called vritti. There are two types of relation depending on whether an expression refers to a primary referent or the secondary referent of it. Primary referent and secondary referent. One is called Sanketa, primary relation, and the relation between an expression and its secondary referent is called Lakshana. Again, Sanketa or the primary relation is of two types, depending on whether the relation is set up by the will or the intention of a particular human being or the will of God. Here, the will of God I am interpreting is postulated simply to explain the conventions whose origins are not known to us. Like the word cow. But the word Tom we know because a particular person or parents has given the name Tom to this person. Or in science, the metal with the atomic number 79. Scientists have introduced this concept, this name, to refer to a particular type of entity. Similarly, in medical science, they have introduced new names. That is called paribhasha, modern convention. I have used the term ancient convention and modern convention. The relation between an expression such as cow and its referent is called Shakti, because we do not know when the convention was set up. But the relation between a proper name or a technical term coined by a scientist or a grammarian and its referent is called paribhasha. So, proper names come under paribhasha. Since the Nyaya has emphasized the direction of a relation, the relation of an expression to its referent is not the same as the relation of a referent to an expression. Nyaya has emphasized direction of the relation. When we say such and such object be cognized by such and such expression, then the relation is called Artha Visheshaka. A baby is born and we say such and such person be cognized by the expression Tom. Then it is Artha Visheshaka Paribhasha. But if the relation between an expression and its referent is set up by a convention, that is intention of the name giver of the form, let such and such expression generate the cognition of such and such object, then it is called Padavisheshaka. When we say, let the word Tom generate the cognition of this object, the baby who is born just now. then it is called Pada Visheshaka Paribhasha. So the Nyaya classification of the relation between an expression and its referent may be represented by the following diagram I have mentioned here. X, R, Y, where X stands for the expression and Y stands for the referent of X. So one is like Tom, the word cow, or the river Ganges. If we take the river Ganges, then Y will be Sanketa. And if we take by the word river Ganges, if we take the bank of the river Ganges, then it will be Lakshana. And if you take ancient convention like the word cow, then it is Sanketa. And the subcategory will be Shakti. And if you use the word proper name or scientific expressions, then it will be Paribhasha. Sanketa is divided into Shakti and Paribhasha. And each of the terminal nodes can be classified further depending on the direction of the relation. Pada Visheshaka or Artha Visheshaka. Okay? From the above discussion, it follows that the Nyaya emphasizes the conventional nature of the relation between an expression and its referent or referents, and the distinction between the two types of primary relation depending on whether the convention is ancient or modern. So the Nyaya use of the word Shakti is to be interpreted as ancient convention. Shakti has got different meanings in different systems. So in Nyaya, Shakti means a ancient convention. Or the convention I have interpreted as the convention whose origins we do not know. Now, let us introduce the Nyaya discussion of meaning of a common noun, such as the word cow. The word cow means, I have used the word meaning complex instead of meaning, because it includes a set of objects. The meaning of the word cow includes particular cows as well as cowness, universal, as well as akriti, the form of an object. And I have interpreted these words like particular cows. Now the question is whether the expression particular cows or cow individuals and the configuration of particular cows are to be understood, how they are to be understood. By the word cow individuals, we should understand particular cows without their qualities and relations. If the cow A is white and the cow B is black, then by the word cow individuals, we should understand A and B without their colors. So in the case of cow individual, colors are not included. How tall is the cow is not included. What is included? Particular cows without their properties. Which we can point out by the word this and that. The expression configuration, akriti of cow individuals refers to the parts of the cow individuals which are related in a particular manner in a particular cow. Let us consider the particular cows A and B. The cow A has parts such as a tail, a head, 4 legs, and a body, which are related in a particular way. Similarly, the cow B has the same type of parts which are related in the same way. Symbolically, the parts of A and B can be represented in the following way. R relation. R stands for relation. The relation of A1, which is I am claiming parts of the cow, tail, head, 4 legs, and the body. Similarly, cow B, the relation of parts can be symbolized by B1, B2, B3, B4, where the subscripts refer to different parts of cow A and B. Now the word configuration, this is new topic, new thing, not mentioned in this form. In the text, configuration of cow individuals, we should not mean the conjunction of A and B, but the generic feature of A, 1 and 2, which can be represented in the following way. The relation of the type tail, then 4 legs, then body and head. The relation is not with particular, but with generic properties. That is why I have used the word type, where alpha, beta, gamma, and delta represent the types of parts of different cow individuals. But the Naiyāyika has raised several objections against the view, which includes the configuration of particulars within the meaning complex of an expression. Several objections raised by Naiyāyika. First of all, this view cannot give a similar account of the meaning of expressions for qualities, actions, and other properties. Let us consider the meaning of the word brown. The meaning complex of this expression includes only the particular brown colors and the universal brownness. Since a color does not have a configuration, akriti, the question whether it is a member of a meaning complex does not arise. So this one is an objection raised from the standpoint of Navburnaya. Secondly, even in the case of substance referring expression, it is not necessary to include the configuration within the meaning complex of it. First of all, it is not adequate. Secondly, it is not necessary. What we need in addition to the set of particular objects to which a word applies a limiter of a chedaka, which will determine the reference uniquely. What we need is the avachedaka, which will determine the referent uniquely. That means in the case of the word cow, we need cowness as avachedaka. Thirdly, it cannot be said that configuration should be included in the meaning complex of an expression instead of class character. Since a class character is an atomic property, a configuration is a molecular property. On the ground of simplicity, the class character should be retained in the meaning complex of an expression. You cannot say either or. Either akriti or class character. Why? Because class character is a simple property. And akriti is a very complex property. So on the ground of simplicity, we should opt for universal cowness. Moreover, according to Jagadisha, in Naiyāyika, the term akriti or configuration mentioned in the Nyaya Sutra should not be interpreted as the form or configuration of an object. He claimed that the word akriti taken in its etymological sense means that which determines the form of an object. So he has given a new meaning to the term akriti. In the case of the word cow, the meaning complex includes the individual cows, the universal cowness, and the relation of inherence, which relates the latter to the former. He has introduced the relation in the case of akriti. Is it clear to everybody? This is Jagadisha.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm not so clear on this one.
So I have mentioned here at the bottom of the page 308, the word cow means cow individuals, inherence relation, and cowness. All right, to everybody?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
I need-
Sir,
yes.
sir, please go on. Go on, sir. Subhashis, sir, please go on. Then I can ask later.
No,
I
my
need a
role
little.
as a timekeeper, I need to remind sir that today we had an extra class covering the entire session, and then
That's right.
and we can pause here. This is also technical, and new beginners like me are there, like Nikhil and myself. So we need to chew a little. Nitiji, you go ahead and ask the question.
No, sir, it was not a question. It was just a clarification, because initially we used to understand that Akriti is the form. But here, according to Jagdish, I learned something new, that Akriti is not the form, rather that which determines the form. So that is something new, and I just wanted to have this thing to express so that others can also understand, and I can also have the clarification.
So Akriti here, new interpretation is that which determines the form,
Determines the
and
form of the object.
it refers to the relation of
Relation.
cowness to individual cows.
Yes, sir. That's something new I learned today. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, obviously.
Jagadish is actually
In Naiyāyika.
Naiyāyika, and he is one of the few heretics amongst the Naiyāyikas. He has many new interpretations.
Heretic is Raghunatha. He is Raghunatha is a great heretic.
Sir, can I ask something?
Sure.
In the context of meaning complex, you have mentioned that by the cow individual, we should understand particular cow. With
Particular cows. Yeah, that's
without
right.
any particular quality.
Cow individuals, I mean particular cows without their properties.
Okay, sir. But is
Properties
not,
or relations.
But is not it the fact that particular qualities of each cow makes a cow different from other cow, and more
now
it makes the cow individual?
Now the cow individuals, how to characterize cow individuals or
Yes,
particular
sir.
cows without their color, without their shape, without their height, and all these properties.
But sir, if we reduce all these qualities from a cow, then we cannot differentiate a cow from another cow, because
now
each cow has its own...
we can differentiate by the term uniqueness. This cow, that cow. Okay. The property of being this, property of being that. Good question indeed. And from their standpoint, I will point out that property of being this, property of being that. And what that property could be, I have symbolized in terms of later on in terms of John means John, or the property of being John. What this property of being John will be, I have discussed from the Naya point of view. There are different interpretations of property of being John. Similarly, property of being this cow has been explained in terms of different properties. One is identity, another is uniqueness. I have followed the uniqueness property. That which differentiates it from all other cows, uniqueness property. And I have interpreted that every object has its own uniqueness, because the Naya system has admitted unique atoms. Atoms are unique, Bishesh. And that Bishesh, the function of that all the Bishesh will determine the uniqueness of the object at the end. Now my wife wants to switch off all the lights.
and the computer light also, sir.
Yes, sir.
So-
I think
Okay.
we need to
I am
stop
very
here.
grateful to you that
Thank
all of you have attending this session, and some of them are
all
for
over
the
the
first
world,
time.
people. Yes.
Yes, Raj Lakshmi Tiwari, I think you are attending it for the first time, and your friend also attending it for the first time, and some of the new persons, Prabir Das, who was present before. Now the next session will be held on